Rebecca never came home from her appointment. That's what David told the police officer on the porch, his hands shaking, his wedding band heavy on his left ring finger. Tuesday, May 14th, 2003. She'd mentioned it over breakfast. A cleaning, maybe a cavity. She'd been mentioning it for weeks, putting it off like she put everything off. But that Tuesday she'd said she was going. She never came home. The officer wrote it down, took David's statement, asked if there'd been arguments, money problems, infidelity, the standard questions. David answered them all with the same hollow honesty. No, 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 they were fine. 37 years old, married 11 years, no kids. She taught English at Montana Prep. He managed the hardware store on 5th. They had a house with a garden. They had dinners on Thursdays. They had a life. By Friday, they had a missing person report. By July, they had nothing but questions. The river gave her back in August, swollen with spring melt and summer storms. It surrendered her slowly. A rafting group spotted her, caught in the rocks near Snake River Canyon. A body in a teal fleece jacket. A woman with dark hair matted to her skull. Rings on her fingers, but not the one that mattered. The wedding ring was gone. 12 years, the coroner said. She was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes, and the kind of clinical precision that made death into paperwork. Approximately. The water and the rocks make it difficult, but the degradation pattern suggests she's been in the river since 2003. David sat in the coroner's office and didn't speak. Identity is confirmed through dental records. Rebecca Margaret Walsh, age 37, your wife. I know who she is, David said. There are some unusual things, the coroner said, like he hadn't spoken. You should know, in case it's relevant. David waited. The wedding ring. Missing. But look at her left hand. The coroner turned a photograph toward him. Rebecca's hand, swollen and damaged by time in the water, but visible. On her ring finger, an indentation, a white band of skin, where something had been removed recently. She wore something there, for a long time, then took it off. Recently, days maybe, not years. I don't understand. I'm saying your wife wasn't wearing her wedding ring when she died, but she was wearing something else, something that left a mark, just like a wedding ring would. But on her right hand, the coroner showed him another photograph. Rebecca's right hand. Same indentation, same white band of skin. 2 rings, 2 fingers, 2 different hands. We found her purse, the coroner said quietly. And in her purse, we found her diary. The diary was evidence. The police kept most of it, but they let David read the final pages. The last entry was dated May 11th, 2003, 3 days before she disappeared. Dail wants to move to Spokane, says it's a fresh start, says he's tired of small towns. I should be excited, I should be planning, but I can't stop thinking about what I'd have to leave behind, who I'd have to stop being. He doesn't know that person, he's never known that person, but she's the only part of me that's real. My appointment is Tuesday. I told him it was dental. He didn't question it. He never questions anything. As long as dinner's on time and the house is clean, as long as I'm Rebecca the wife, as long as I'm small. But on Tuesday, I'm going to be something else. I'm going to be someone else. And I don't know if I can come back from that. I don't know if I want to. The entry ended there. No period, no finality, just the sentence trailing off into nothing. Detective Sarah Voss came to the hardware store on a Thursday afternoon. She had the look of someone who'd read the diary. There was pity in her eyes, but also curiosity, the professional kind. She asked David to come down to the station. When's the last time you actually saw your wife? She asked. They were in an interrogation room. Not hostile exactly, but formal. Official. I told you. May 13th. She was going to her appointment the next morning. But did you see her that night? Actually see her? David tried to remember. She was there in the house. Where? I don't know. The bedroom maybe. But you didn't speak to her? No. I was watching television. Voss leaned back in her chair. I've been going through her diary, going back, years back. Do you know what I found? David shook his head. 2 lives, Voss said. Your wife was living 2 lives. The one you knew about. The teacher, the wife, the dinner maker. The woman in the teal jacket who kept her hair neat and wore her wedding ring and had a quiet job at a quiet school. Voss paused. And another one. I don't understand. 2 phone numbers. One registered to her name, which was in your house. You knew about that one. And another one, a prepaid cell phone that wasn't registered to anyone. We found it in her purse, along with cash. A lot of cash. And photographs. Photographs of what? Of a different woman, Voss said, photographed with her hair down, wearing different clothes, wearing a ring on her right hand, a silver band with a river stone, dating back 7 years, the same 7 years that she was supposed to be your wife. The photographs showed Rebecca, but not Rebecca. The same woman David had married, but arranged differently, like someone had taken his wife's body and assembled it into a stranger. In one photo, she was laughing with another woman, a woman with red hair and a tattoo on her collarbone. Their hands were touching across a table at a restaurant David had never taken Rebecca to. In another, she was standing on a bridge at sunset, alone, looking down at the water with an expression that David had never seen directed at him. In a third, she was wearing a silver ring, and it was catching the light, and the joy on her face was so complete that David had to look away. Do you recognize the other woman? Voss asked. David shook his head. He couldn't speak. Her name is Catherine Reeves. She owns a photography studio in Missoula. She and Rebecca met 7 years ago at a community college art class. Rebecca wasn't taking it. She was auditing, sitting in the back, taking notes. For 7 years, Catherine says, they were partners. Partners? David heard his voice come out small. Partners, Voss said flatly. I'm sorry. I know this is difficult, but it's relevant to what happened. David looked at the photograph of his wife laughing. He didn't recognize that woman. So she was a lot of things, Voss said. And maybe she was suffocating. The diary entries support that. She was planning something, building to something. The day of her appointment, the day she disappeared, I think she was finally going to choose. Choose what? Choose which life to keep, Voss said. And I think she may have already decided who to tell first. Catherine Reeves's studio was in a converted warehouse in Missoula, all exposed brick and skylights and photographs of the Bitterroot Mountains on the walls. When Voss brought David there, Catherine was sitting on a stool in her darkroom, developing prints. Her hair was grayer now, 7 years older, but her face looked the same as it did in the photographs, open, alive, the opposite of Rebecca's wife face. I don't know what happened to her, Catherine said immediately. I haven't heard from her in 12 years, not since that day. The day she disappeared, Voss said. The day she was supposed to meet me, Catherine said. She called. That morning, she said she couldn't do it, that she was going to stay, that she'd made her choice. David was sitting in the corner, watching this stranger talk about his wife like she owned her, like she had rights to her. What had she decided? He heard himself ask. Catherine looked at him for the first time. Her eyes were sad. To keep pretending, she said. She said she'd thought about it all night. She said she'd looked at you sleeping, and she couldn't do that to you. The truth, the pain. She said she wasn't brave enough to blow up both your lives. So she died instead, Voss said quietly. She didn't die because of me, Catherine said, and her voice cracked. She died because she was trying to make an impossible choice, because she was trapped. David understood then. The kind of trapped Rebecca had been. Not physically, spiritually. She had been two women in one body, and one of them had to disappear. She'd known it. The diary proved it. She'd known that one life would have to go, and she couldn't decide which one deserved to survive. In the end, the river had decided for her. The investigation took 3 months. The police found the prepaid phone in Rebecca's purse. They checked the call logs. 37 calls to Catherine in the month before her death. Long calls, desperate calls. The last call was on the morning of May 14th. 2 minutes. Catherine said it was Rebecca saying goodbye. They found the place where she'd gone, instead of to her dental appointment. An overlook by the river, 7 miles from town. Her car was there when the search team went back, parked and abandoned. In the driver's seat, her purse, her diary, her jacket, folded neatly on the passenger side, and on the dashboard, a photograph. It was the silver ring, just the ring, photographed close up, the river stone, catching light. Rebecca's handwriting on the back, for the person I might have been. The police ruled it suicide. The coroner agreed. The way her body was positioned in the water suggested she'd jumped. The missing ring suggested she'd removed it. Both rings, the one David had given her and the one Catherine had, removed them and left them behind like she was shedding skin. David kept the diary. The police let him. After the case closed, he read it once, cover to cover, in a single night. By the end he understood something terrible. She had loved him. She really had. But she had loved Catherine more, and loving them both, living in both worlds simultaneously, had slowly killed her. The contradiction had become unbearable. One life was a lie, but both lives together were an impossibility. So she'd chosen a third option. She'd chosen water. 20 years later, David stood in a small gallery in Missoula, looking at a photography exhibition. The title was Rebecca, Refracted. It was Catherine's work, 40 photographs spanning 7 years, all of them featuring the same woman in different light. Rebecca in profile, Rebecca laughing, Rebecca looking out windows, Rebecca standing by water, Rebecca at the moment before everything changed. At the entrance to the exhibition, there was a placard. These photographs document a love that existed between two worlds, a woman who was completely alive when she was with another woman, and completely trapped when she was not. This exhibition is dedicated to everyone who has had to choose between the life they were supposed to live and the life they were meant to live. To everyone who didn't have the courage I wish I had given her. To Rebecca, who deserved both, and ended up with neither. David read it 3 times. Then he looked at the photographs again, and for the first time, he understood what his wife had been trying to tell him all those years. Not with words, with absence, with the careful maintenance of a lie, with the silver ring she wore on her right hand, where he couldn't see it. She had been real with Catherine. Completely, genuinely, dangerously real. And she had never been real with him at all. He visited the overlook where her car had been found. It was beautiful in an aching way. The river ran swift and clear below. Birds called from the trees. The light was golden in late afternoon. It was easy to understand why she had chosen this place to let go. On the stone overlooking the water, he left something. Her wedding ring. The one he'd kept all these years. He placed it carefully on the rock, and he said words that weren't quite prayers and weren't quite apologies. He said, "I'm sorry I didn't see you," and he walked away. By the next morning, the river had taken the ring too. David never knew if that was closure or just continuation, but when he went back to the gallery the next week, he looked at the photographs differently. He looked at the way light caught her face when she was alive. He looked at the way her eyes found something beyond the frame. He looked at the silver ring catching sun, and he understood. His wife had not been missing. She had been there the whole time, just not with him. The diary is in a museum now, the Montana Museum of Art. They have it behind glass, with photographs of Rebecca. The placard tells her story, the simplified version. Woman living double life, found after 12 years, case closed. But David knows the truth is stranger. The truth is that Rebecca never disappeared. She just finally lived long enough to choose a different version of herself, and that choice had cost her everything. Sometimes David wonders what would have happened if he'd paid attention, if he'd asked the right questions, if he'd noticed her face was different when she came home from her dental appointments, if he'd understood that the woman he'd married had been slowly suffocating, but he hadn't noticed. And that was the real crime. Not the jumping, not the water, but all the years before that. All the years of a woman becoming invisible to the man who'd promised to see her. All the years of love that wasn't enough because it was the wrong kind of love. All the years of a life that wasn't a lie but wasn't a truth either. Just a woman, suspended between water and sky, waiting for permission to become real. And when that permission never came, she took it herself. She went to the river, and the river, finally, let her be. In the museum, visitors stand in front of the diary and the photographs. They read the placard. They think about Rebecca for a moment, and then they move on to the next exhibit. They don't think about her for the rest of the day. But her words stay in the glass case. I don't know if I can come back from that. I don't know if I want to. And somewhere, in whatever exists after choosing water, maybe Rebecca finally found an answer. Maybe she finally understood that some people aren't meant to come back. Maybe she understood that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to let yourself disappear. So that someone, somewhere, finally sees what you've been trying to show them all along. The truth. In reflection. In refraction. In the light that catches silver. Forever.